Today, I'm interviewing somebody who totally healed and reversed her MS diagnosis. We start with all these weird symptoms, and then we go into our doctor and we get tested, and then we're diagnosed with MS. And sometimes it can take a while for some to get that diagnosis, but it's a shock when it comes. And I want to let you know that I'm not special. Kate's not special. She's the one I'm interviewing today. You can reverse your diagnosis too. Everybody can do this. And it is a journey, but it can be done. So if you want some help, you can go to my website, nourishyourway.com, and you can hit a button called Join the Community. And you can be one of many people who I'm helping right now to reverse their MS. And I have testimonials in there. I've helped many other people do this, and you are not alone. Because sometimes, again, we need more proof that it can be done, and it absolutely can, and you can do the same thing. So anyway, I hope you enjoy this interview. Hi, everyone. I have a special guest with me today, and her name is Kate McDowell, and she healed her MS diagnosis. She totally reversed it, and I can't wait for you to hear her story. So thank you for coming, Kate.
Oh, thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, good. A lot of your story, I resonate with because a lot of what you went through, I went through too. And I'm excited for people to hear it. So tell us what happened, right? So what year was it? How old you were? And what symptoms started showing up for you?
Absolutely. Okay. I find it interesting when you say that there's like an overlap, and that's something that I often hear with clients, but I will get into it. When I was diagnosed, I was like a really active kid. I was really into horseback riding. I liked to work out. I was doing really well in my career. Things were going well for me. And all of a sudden, I woke up one day and the entire right side of my body was numb. Like even in my mouth, felt like I just got home from the dentist. You know, that like rubbery feeling that you can feel inside your mouth.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, this is kind of weird. But I was young and I was active. And so I went about my life for the rest of the week. And then I got to the weekend and I thought, oh, it's still there. Maybe I didn't just sleep weird.
Hmm.
Maybe I should go get this checked out. So I went to the hospital in the city I was living in, and immediately they rushed me into acute care. And I thought, this is kind of weird again. And after a few days of doctors and nurses coming in, poking, prodding, all kinds of testing, and hearing murmurs of stroke over and over again, I was 22 years old. This was 2005, so 21 years ago.
Wow.
It was a little alarming to hear this. But then when a doctor finally came in, like I said, after about 2 or 3 days there, he walked into my room. I hadn't seen this doctor before, and he said, "Good morning, Kate. I am diagnosing you with multiple sclerosis." And I was shocked. I didn't even know what that was. I was sitting in this hospital room all by myself at
Did you have
22.
an MRI?
I did. I had an MRI, spinal tap,
Okay.
a bunch of different things done. And so it was a shock. Like I said, I was active. I was doing really well in my life. I thought I had this future, this possibility for me still like wide open. And all of a sudden I was like, oh my goodness, what is this? And so from that hospital room, the doctor said, no, it's fine. I'm sending you to this MS clinic down the road. You can go. Cause I started to want to ask questions. And he was like, well, no, I can't answer those for you. So I got in my car and bawled my eyes out the entire way to the MS clinic. And when I walked into the room, it was, I believe, a Wednesday morning. And I looked around and everyone was in a wheelchair.
Hmm.
And the reality of this started to really sink in for me. It's like, oh my God, like what is going on here? So essentially that was the start for me of everything happening. I mean, even from that MS clinic, I was totally in shock still. So I don't think much of what the neurologist said to me even resonated. But I do remember her saying, like, we need to start you on medication right now. But that was the first thing, was like, we need to start you on this medication. And I didn't even like taking Advil. And so I was like, okay, well, like, how long is this going to be for? And she's like, no, no, for the rest of your life, which was shock number, I don't know, at least 2 of that day, which was pretty crazy. So
So it's an oral pill that you took or injections?
The only options that in 2005 were injections and daily injections for the rest of your life. And I was just like, okay, I need some time to think about this. So that was my 3-day diagnosis. And I know a lot of people will say to me, you were actually really lucky, because sometimes it can take years to get diagnosed. It was still shocking either way, right?
Yeah.
So
Okay, so then you took these injections for how long?
I didn't at the initially, I didn't. I resisted because I was like, I don't know. Like I said, I didn't really like taking medication. So I resisted for, oh God, it was 20 years ago. I think about 6 months. And then I got to the point where initially my relapses were happening about, I think, every 6 months. And then they started, so I'm wrong with the date then, but it was a year maybe. And they started happening like much closer together. And I was like, okay, this is really getting in the way of the life and the future that I'd imagined for myself. So I did succumb to, all right, let's do the injections. I hated needles. So that was an obstacle to overcome initially as well. But I thought, you know what, I have to do something. Like, this is, the quality of life is disappearing and I'm young and I don't want that. So I did go on the medication for several years at the beginning. I think 7. So yeah.
Okay. Okay. So what other symptoms came up later?
Oh man. There's a lot of well, that depends. Well, I did 3 different types of medication throughout. I started with Copaxone, moved to Betaseron because of Copaxone wasn't strong enough, and then moved to Tecfidera, which I was super excited at the time because I was like, oh, there's an oral option now. But the symptoms just kept getting worse and the side effects kept getting worse as I moved up through medication. So I had like terrible fatigue, which I've had clients say to me that their doctors say, oh, that's not a symptom of MS. What? But yeah, the fatigue was insane. I'd be driving home from work and I couldn't keep my eyes open on the highway. So then I had to go on another medication to stay awake. Oh, well, then I couldn't sleep at night. So another medication to help me sleep at night. I had nerve pain really bad. Guess what? Another medication for that. And then I also had the cognitive challenges was the biggest frustration for me because I was a retail manager. And so I would pretty much hide in my office all the time and hope that no one came in and asked to talk to the manager because I felt like dumb going out and trying to talk to people. I remember being called out once and the customer asked me a question and the thoughts were great in my mind. So I still sounded smart in emails or in a blog. But when it came to actually talking to people, I was like, bleh. The words would come out like all jarbled and mixed up. And I remember a customer looking at my staff member and saying, that's your manager? And that was like it just hit really hard because I felt like I didn't belong anywhere because I couldn't speak properly anymore. So
Yeah, that's hard. I had that too. Yeah, the brain fog, same as how you explained it. Like your thoughts were crisp, right? You knew exactly what you wanted to say, but it didn't come out. Like it didn't compute, right?
yeah, I used to say it was like there was a short circuit between my brain and my mouth, and I
Yeah.
never knew what was going to come out. And so I like stopped talking to people. I remember after I started to help myself move in a better direction, a friend of a friend saying, "Oh, I thought you were either just rude or like kind of slow because you just didn't have conversations or the conversations were very limited." So yeah, that was one of my biggest frustrations was the cognitive. But I mean, the pain was like I can deal with pain. Pain is something that I've experienced in lots of different ways in life. And so yeah, the mental part was the hardest. And now I speak on podcasts, on stages, and all over the place. And I can't imagine life if I hadn't found a different way.
Yeah. Good for you. Okay, so you're on all these different drugs.
Mhm.
So then what happened?
I started to kind of notice that maybe medicine is not the answer for me. And I grew up in a family that taught you that if there's something wrong with you, like go to the doctor. The doctor will solve your problems. But I started to kind of realize like, okay, like every time I go to the doctor, he says either we need to put you on a stronger med or we need to add to your like laundry list of medications. And I didn't want that. I just was watching my quality of life kind of slip down the drain. And I remember at 29 years old going into the doctor and having the same conversation. Like, I'm not getting better. It's actually getting worse. And him saying to me, like, based on my mobility markers, I guess, we may need to start looking at a wheelchair for you. And I was 29 years old.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, I started to panic a little bit then. And I started to really take a look at, okay, maybe medicine is not the answer in terms of what I've been doing. So, okay, what's the other options? At the time, the only other thing that I saw was, okay, maybe I can raise money for the MS Society. Maybe they will come up with this cure that they say that they're working towards. And maybe the cure will be for everyone with MS, not just for me. And so I did walks, I did bike rides, I did all kinds of things to support the MS Society. Until one day I asked my best friend if she'd sponsor me for an MS bike ride. And she said, Kate, I love you. I will absolutely sponsor you. But you know they're never going to come up with a cure, right? That was like the slap in the face that I needed, really. Because it's what helped me realize, not in the moment. In the moment I was angry, I was upset, I was frustrated. I was like, I can't believe she said that to me. But they say that good friends say what you want to hear and the best friends say what you need to hear.
Yeah.
Right. And so I started to kind of, oh, maybe she's right. And realized that all this time I'd been waiting and blaming something outside of me for why I was sick. I blamed God, religion, my family, my upbringing, blah, 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 all these different things. But realizing if I'm focusing on outside of me, that means I'm waiting for some knight in shining armor to come and rescue me. And when I started looking inside, it was like, oh, okay, what are the changes that I can make? And so that ultimately was the kind of starting point for my MS journey and for moving forward to where I am now. So.
Okay, so how do you think your friend knew that the MS Society wasn't going to come up with a cure?
I don't even know. Like my spouse and I have talked about that just from the perspective of was it even her that said that? You know what I mean? Sometimes we get like downloads or we get what I don't even know because I know how her mind works in terms of other things around health. And she's very like, go to the doctor, go to the doctor. So I don't even know where that came from, but it was exactly what I needed to hear, which I'm grateful for and which is really cool.
Well, what you probably didn't know is that your biking and your walking was helping you.
Yeah.
At the time.
That's true.
But okay, so what did you figure out?
Shortly after, this was 2011 or 12, because initially the brain fog was still there. So I can't pinpoint the date. So it was still really early in times of Google and in times of being able to go on social media. There was no TikTok. And so a few days after, I believe, I got an email of the Dr. Terry Walls, Minding Your Mitochondria video, what is it, TED Talk?
Oh,
and I was
yeah,
like, oh, interesting. Okay, maybe I'll watch this. And so I did. And I was like, holy cow. Okay. This woman was in a worse place than I was, and she's moving forward. And it just kind of gave me some motivation and inspiration to like, all right, well, I can change my diet. And it was the first kind of glimpse of this is something I can do. And that's often the most powerful thing for people is realizing there's stuff you can do. Mm-hmm. That makes a huge difference. So I did that. I like overhauled my diet. I went from I used to eat a bowl of multigrain Cheerios for dinner. So all of that had to change. And it was hard. And I still had a busy work life and a long commute every day. But I was like, I'm doing this. And I gave myself this 30-day commitment, which seems to be my thing. I can commit to something for 30 days. If it starts to work, then I'm like, okay, I'm going to keep going. And so I committed to making these changes to my diet. I wasn't like totally Wall's protocol, AIP, like the really strict side of it, but got rid of all processed foods, all gluten, all dairy, all sugar, and just focused on whole foods. And in 30 days, I started to feel things move in a direction they hadn't in a really long time. So that was the starting point for me. And then just from there, it was like, okay, what else can I do? And things have just continued, which is pretty neat.
I feel like you're telling my story.
Right.
So what's so interesting is, how did Dr. Wall's assistant find out about you? Like, how did you get that email?
I don't even know who it was from. Like, I don't think it was from Dr. Wall's community. It's one of my friends or somebody sent it to me. So
Oh,
it's similar to like my friends saying about they're not going to come up with cure. I don't know where that came from, but it's like things lined up exactly as they needed to in the right time, which is
maybe it
pretty
was
neat.
divine intervention.
I just thought that. Maybe it was.
Cool. Okay, so
Yeah.
you start feeling better.
Mhm.
So how long did it take you to really erase, yeah, your most of your symptoms? Yeah, tell me about that.
So looking back, it's hard. That's hard to completely pinpoint. I mean, at the beginning, the energy started to improve, and I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of interesting. And then some gut health stuff started to improve. Like, I don't know, many people deal with constipation or deal with incontinence when they're living with MS. And so that stuff started to improve. I'm like, okay, something's going on here. And then the brain fog started to lift. And I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. I don't walk out of my office anymore and think, why am I out here? That started to lift. And so, like, the little changes happened over time, but ultimately, eventually I got to the point where I realized, okay, I'm not in a good situation in other areas of my life as well. As I said, I was in like a really stressful work situation, very male dominated industry. So I was like, I will show them. But that meant me working lots of crazy long hours. And I was in a relationship that was not helping either of us at the time. Both great people, we just were not helpful to each other. And so I got out of that relationship. And then a few years later, I got out of the toxic work environment and just kind of started to lean into, I met someone new, which was fabulous. And finally, I felt safe, which I hadn't in my life, really. And so I think from a nervous system level, of the nervous system finally not feeling like it's on high alert and in a state of panic all the time, the immune system started to kind of calm down as well. And so in 2016, in January of 2016, this is disclaimer, this is not a recommendation in any way, shape, or form. I came off my medication. I made the choice to not take the disease modifying disease, DMTs, DMDs anymore. And I was in a place where I'd been feeling good and I wanted to test it and see, like, is this actually working? Has this actually helped with the nutrition and with a lot of, like, I made some mindset related changes, some lifestyle related changes as well. The lifestyle changes were big for me as well. But I mean, I met who's now my spouse, in October of 2015. We started dating in December of 2015. And then January of 2016, I came off my meds. And since about the middle of 2016, I believe, I've had no symptoms at all for MS. So everything had already started to really come down, but then even the change in a supportive relationship. And actually, in 2016, I was let go from that really stressful job at the time as well. And it's when that happens, it's like, oh my goodness, now what do I do? Like, I've just lost my job. It was the best thing that ever could have happened to me.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it was a blessing in disguise for you.
Yeah, it really was. Because it's like, what am I going to do now? And I ended up going back to school for nutrition and learning more about that. And my spouse, we look back now and she'll say, like, you made a decision that I'm not going to live this way anymore. I'm not going to continue following this narrative that medicine is the only answer and there's nothing else you can do. And that alone was like a really big shift. And maybe that's when the divine timing, as we said, lined up, or what it was. But I haven't looked back at all.
Oh my God, I love your story. And I talk about this a lot, is it's not only food, and I thought it
Mhm.
was in the
Me
beginning,
too.
but the food, yeah, helps you heal on a cellular level.
Mhm.
But then you figure out, oh, stress, relationships matter. Like
Mhm.
you have to get away from the toxic relationships and you have to find a job, or if you have to have a job, you need to find one that you align with and that you feel supported in and that you enjoy, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that is important though, in the sense of like having purpose, because I have worked with clients who aren't working because their spouse is like, "Oh, you don't need to work. We have enough money. Like you don't need it." But
Mhm.
having a purpose to and a mission to kind of keep you moving forward, I think is very valuable, right? Like when I got let go from my job, I was like, now what? Why am I here? Why am I on this planet? And how can I turn that into something that's beneficial and useful? Which is why I love helping with people. I mean, I don't just work with MS clients, but I do attract a fair amount of them because they see my story and they're like, oh, okay, is there something I can do for me? But yeah, I mean, having a job that aligns with your own kind of mission and purpose and feeling like you're making a contribution, it makes such a big difference. I love it so much.
Totally. I feel like you're living my life again. So, okay, so when was it, like how long was it when you got let go from your job that you said, okay, I want to look into nutrition and maybe helping other people and maybe my career is going to go in this direction?
So I was let go from my job in 20 January, no, November of 2016. And then, yeah, it was like, okay, now what do I do? And so I did have a fallback, a safety net that many people like to keep, especially it's interesting when you see some crossover with MS and with other autoimmune. I see a lot of people who were very much like people pleasers and put everyone else's needs ahead of theirs from a young age. There's more to that story as well. Like my dad left when I was 4, and my mom's happiness was how I felt safe. And so that was my focus, was I have to keep other people happy so that I can be safe. But anyways, I digress. So after I got let go from the job, I did have a safety net and another retail job that I stepped into full time, like right away out of there. And then I was listening to podcasts was where it came from. And I'm on this podcast and it's talking about going from a corporate retail job to nutrition. And I was like, oh, interesting. Okay. And so I met another woman who was doing holistic nutrition and she loved the school she was going to. And so I signed up and went to school and became a holistic nutritionist and thought, if nothing else, it's going to help me even more. But then it's like, okay, people kept asking me, you're so different. How did you do it? And I thought nutrition was, and it is still a backbone, but I thought it was like all of it until I started to realize like you can give someone a perfect meal plan, but if they're not following it, there's something else going on that's getting in their way. So,
Yeah, yeah. Or if they still have symptoms and they're
mhm.
eating a perfect diet, yeah, there is
Yeah,
something else going on for sure.
yeah. And a lot of what I see now, because I am trained in hypnosis and NLP, neuro linguistic programming, and a lot of what I see is trauma from childhood that comes up when it's people that they are following their meal plan, they're doing all these things, but they're still having symptoms. And it's like, oh, that time when you were a child and you felt like your mom was favoring your sister until the one day where you had a headache. And with the headache, your mom let you stay home from school. And then you learned that, oh, okay, a headache is a way that I get needs met. And health can be used in different ways. I had a conversation with a client about this yesterday, just about how it's not, we don't consciously do it, but we can use health stuff to get our needs met until you realize that there are more useful ways to get those needs met. If it's belonging, if it's attention, if it's support, whatever it is. I mean, like I said, my dad left when I was 4, and I learned from a very young age that when I was sick, it brought my family unit back together. So my dad would come back and would help with things if I wasn't feeling well.
Ah,
What
interesting.
need was the MS serving? Right. So
Yeah,
very interesting.
that is. I had some childhood trauma too. Yeah. That's important to point out.
Very
Okay.
common.
So tell us what you do now.
So now I do work with clients. I don't do nutrition consulting or counseling anymore with people. We will have a conversation around nutrition, but I don't do meal plans. I never wanted to do that really, but I do help people with kind of the nervous system and the mental side of things, the neurology side of things when it comes to health and wellness. So I use timeline therapy, which is about going back to see where the negative emotions from your past. Our mind is always looking to compare things. So something stressful comes up and it's like, what is this like? That may be something that you no longer think about that happened when you were 4 years old that your mind is automatically comparing to. And it's like, how can we kind of clean up some of those experiences from the past so that you have more flexibility and different choices moving forward. I do some work around trauma. It's mainly about cleaning up the experiences from the past and then looking towards the future. And a lot of the clients that come to me will say, like, I've been in therapy for 10 years and it's nothing against therapy. I don't have anything against therapy, but it's understanding that I can help you with some tools and resources so that you can start focusing on the future and moving forward rather than just going back and talking about those situations from the past.
Right.
And so, yeah, that's the client results. It's been very cool to see. Like I have MS clients who were on disability and wanted to go back to work, and now they are working again, and just who are focused on more positive possibilities for the future rather than the fear and the like, what's going to happen to my life in this place with this burden that I've been given with this MS diagnosis, and realizing how much more possibility they have.
I love that. Like, let's heal the past so that you can look forward and be healthy in the future.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that. I love that. Okay. Well, is there anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
I think the biggest thing I like to share with people is we can often come into a situation and feel like there's something wrong with us. And I know that there was a time where I definitely thought there was something wrong with me. And from that place, it's really hard to look forward. It's really hard to move forward in any way. And it's realizing that health problems or any of these symptoms that you're dealing with, if we can look at them as communication, as a message from the body, and to start to realize, okay, what is this trying to tell me? What do I need to learn from this so that I can move forward into the future that I want? Because I spent a lot of time being like, I don't want symptoms. I don't want symptoms. I don't want symptoms. And the more I focused on that, your unconscious mind shows evidence of what you're focusing on. So it'd be like, oh, here's some brain fog. Oh, here's some nerve pain. Oh, here's some instability and difficulty walking. Here's all of these different things. And when I started shifting my focus towards every day I'm getting healthier and healthier, is a saying that I've got on like TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, people saying it, like dozens and dozens of people. It's simple, but the messages that I get back are incredible of people who are like, oh, I used to deal with this and now it's changed. It's weird. Is it? What you focus on will show up in your life in different ways. So yeah, just realizing you're not broken, and maybe take a look at what you're focusing on. And when we start to shift that, it's pretty cool what can happen.
I love that. I know I always tell people what you say or what you think, your body is listening.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
Perfect. Okay, so how can people get a hold of you?
So my website is alignednaturalhealth.com. I'll share the link with you, and I'm sure it'll be in the show notes, correct?
Yep.
And then on Instagram, on YouTube, Aligned Natural Health is where you will find me there as well. And so ultimately, like, I do a free consultation. So if you're curious, if you got some interest in what we talked about today, book a free consultation with me. My goal is always to help people leave the conversation in a better place than where they started. So I teach them some like little techniques and strategies that can help them with whatever they're struggling with. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Kate. This is going to really help a lot of people. I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been wonderful.
If you liked the episode, please share it and rate the podcast, and then also join my newsletter. and it's easy to get on my list. Just go to my website, nourishyourway.com, go to the newsletter tab, and sign up. And then I'll give you healing information once a week, so you won't miss anything. And I also include a recipe of the week. Thanks for joining me today, and you'll hear from me in the near future.